And good afternoon, folks. Welcome back to Undercover ET UK, and we have a special guest on the show, Jack Connor from Cosmic Road, mate. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me on the show.
Thanks for coming on the show, man. It's a privilege and an honor, we could say. For those that don't know, Jack runs the Cosmic Road YouTube channel, and it's just amazing at what he does, man. Your work ethic is right up there with the best. You're constantly on the ball. You question everything. You deliver the information that people can't get hold of. You know, there are people around the world that they're not privy to the information that you're giving out. So big thank you from me, first of all, because without your information, it would make my job very difficult, actually. And I'm sure a lot of other content creators would probably agree with me.
Well, man, I feel the same way about you and others that are actually in the field, gathering the research, going to crop circles, getting the photos and the video. That's where it's at. I can analyze it and talk about it, and I certainly had my own experiences, but I really respect what you do, and thank you for doing that and bringing that to people.
Thanks, man. Yeah, no, my pleasure as well. Like, we all want to know, right, what's going on, and everyone's got different perspective, and I try and keep an open mind, but at the same time, like, I know what we're dealing with. At least I know that there's something else, right? And that's kind of what your experience has led you to believe. Just how did you even, obviously, there's so many things about Jack Connor, right? But just tell us, where are you from? I know where you're from, but tell us where you're from, how you even got into this, because I know you're an author. I've looked at your first book, but tell the audience just a little bit about how Jack Connor came to
Yeah,
be.
sure. Yeah, I'm an American, obviously, from Texas. I'm from Austin. Currently living in College Station. I'm a novelist. I write fantasy and science fiction, steampunk, horror, that kind of thing. I've always thought that the way I explain it is I felt like I needed to bring the fantastic into the world because I didn't believe in it. I was an
Yeah.
atheist and non-believer in UFOs, didn't believe in any of that stuff. And then I then I began to experience it a few years ago. And
Now
you
it's your
know,
life.
yeah, yeah. So, sadly, I kind of started to lose interest in writing. I guess I lost my, reason for writing as much. But I discovered a new passion and experiences, and a new chapter in my life has begun. But I still write. I'm just put out the first couple of books in a new series. So,
Sure.
but anyway, yeah. But yeah, my new chapter in my life began in 2017 when Lou Elizondo came out of the UFO closet. I would see him on Fox and CNN or wherever he was, talking about his, ATIP days and that kind of information. And, I kind of filed that away. I had seen some UFO documentaries and was kind of curious about the topic, but I didn't believe in it. And if there were UFOs, why weren't they sitting down on the White House lawn or, in front of Parliament or whatever, right?
Sure. Also,
You know,
just to add, Jack, am I right in saying your wife is a scientist?
yes, she is.
So again, like, if it's not been proven, why would you believe? Just that scientific mindset, I guess, of just like, nah, they're not real. You know, I get that. I get where I was one of them as well. So
Yeah, I like to say that she does the science and I write the science fiction. And
yeah,
yeah.
what a good
And
combination.
so yeah, so I didn't believe in any of this stuff, and Lou started coming out talking about it, and at the same time, I saw the Beaver, Utah UFO video, and very short video of drone operators flying over Utah, gathering some B-roll for commercial or whatever they were doing, and yeah, they saw this UFO. It looked a lot like the Tic Tac, this oblong white object. Of course,
I
it's going
remember
so
it.
fast it could have been spherical, but it looks oblong and about the same size roughly as the Tic Tac, going super fast, buzzes the drone, just flies right by the drone coming out of like the mountains. It kind of makes this bendy movement, like maybe it's not rigid, hard to tell exactly, but it makes a sharp turn. And I just watched that on repeat again and again. And I saw various
So
analyses of that Utah object, the Beaver Utah object, and I just was like obsessed with that. I was
hook,
like,
line, and
it
sinking,
wasn't
man.
coming from the government. It wasn't some
Reeled in. You just got
right. Yeah,
reeled
that
in.
exactly, man. That was the hook. Yeah,
Yeah, man.
and yeah, and so then I started taking Lou more seriously, and I started listening to
Mhm.
everything that he had to say, and researching ATIP and OSAP and the UFO field in general, all the sightings and all the history, and I don't have a day job, and I have kind of an obsessive personality, and I was able to just to devote all my waking hours into researching this stuff, and I did. And I would circle around one rabbit hole, like, abductions. And I was like, I can believe in UFOs now. I've done all this research, but abductions, but then I would do the research and, I'm
It
still
just
doing the
gets
research.
wilder, doesn't it? It gets
Uh,
wilder
I,
every corner you take.
I have like absorbed thousands probably of alien abductions now,
Yeah.
the research on the various cases. And they get weird, they get trippy,
Mm.
and they're very real. There's physical evidence. Anyway, so I would go down one rabbit hole, and then I would get to another rabbit hole, and Bigfoot. Surely there's no rabbits down that hole. That's just stupid.
Man,
Bigfoot is stupid.
when you
But there's
first
rabbits
mentioned,
down that hole.
yeah, when you first mentioned Bigfoot on your channel, I went, no, Jack, please. I just getting my head over UFOs. And you went on to say, like, I never believed in it, but I do now. And I was like, no, 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 no. It can't be. It can't be Bigfoot. But I've not done my research. I see, I've not done my research on that side yet. I know you have. So it's open. But I'm just like where I was with the UFOs with Bigfoot. Like, I know it's a possibility because UFOs are real, but I'm still like, surely not. What's
Well,
your,
I
give me
started
your
coming around
Bigfoot
in
view?
Bigfoot when I came across multiple police reports of Bigfoot. And those guys hate to be ribbed by other police officers. They do
Sure.
not want to be the kook in the police force that talks about Bigfoot. But when they reported Bigfoot, I started to take that seriously and dive into the research more and listen to the experiencers and see the physical evidence. And I was like, I started becoming more open-minded to it.
Mm,
And once I did, the research was very solid. Bigfoot's the thing.
wow.
I don't know what it is. I don't think it's a lost primate that people haven't
Yeah,
discovered.
that's what I'm
That
thinking. Yeah, it's
that
got to
doesn't
be
make any
like
sense.
it's got to be ET, right, or dimensional, or
Right, right, right.
got to
And
be.
yeah, we can talk about Bigfoot, but
Yeah.
anyway, so yeah, I started going down all these rabbit holes, and one rabbit hole in particular that I always circled around, but I never really wanted to explore was Skinwalker Ranch.
Yeah.
Uh, but if I was ever going to get to the bottom of Blue Elizondo and ATIP and OSAP, I had to go down that rabbit hole.
Mhm.
But it just seemed such a weird rabbit hole. I was very nervous about that. But eventually I dived into the research on Skinwalker Ranch, and my mind was blown. They've got skinwalkers. They've got shape-shifting beings, giant wolves. They've got ghosts.
Yeah.
They've got UFOs, whatever. They've got Bigfoot. You know. Uh,
They have,
so
they have,
uh,
yeah. I know they have. We've been following it in the UK since it came out, obviously. Do you know what though, Jack? It was nice of them to capture a black hockey puck dragon-like looking object the other week that managed to clear the distance of like the scenery, I guess, the mesa and everything. And they clocked it at 2,600 miles an hour. And I just sat there and just went, get in there because that's what we do. That's what we look for, right? And they've just found one. Thank them. Thank the gods. Um, so yeah, I mean, experiences, they're all like they're happening everywhere, right? Like,
they're happening everywhere. They really are. And once I started getting into Skinwalker Ranch and doing the research on that, and I was an atheist, right?
mm,
Not believing in anything spiritual or paranormal. And, when I had found that in my alien abduction research and stuff like that, I would just, okay, that person's an outlier. Even though there's actually a lot of that. I didn't want to go there. I was an atheist. It didn't fit my worldview. Not going to go there.
yeah,
But they were finding it at Skinwalker Ranch. It was, studied by, military or, government people and all that kind of stuff. So are ghosts real? So I started researching the paranormal, and there seemed to be something there. People were
mm,
experiencing something real.
mm,
I wasn't prepared that it was like ghosts or anything actually spiritual or metaphysical because I didn't believe in that. But people were experiencing something real. The research was
sure.
pretty solid. So I co-founded a ghost hunting group, and I started ghost hunting, not thinking that I was going to find evidence of the spiritual, but thinking this was like a backdoor to studying aliens.
Hmm.
Like whatever this phenomenon was, it had to be some sort of artifact of alien technology or something.
Yeah.
This was a backdoor into studying the UFO phenomenon. So that's why I started ghost hunting, and we had lots of ghosty experiences, and weird stuff happened. And I've got shadow beings, multiple shadow beings recorded on security camera footage, and
Sure.
orbs, and started having experiences of my own. And then it was like at a certain point, I was like, this does not feel alien. This something else is going on here.
Sure.
And so I just went to Google and I typed in, "Do we have souls?" And Google came up with near-death experiences. So I started doing researching the science on near-death experiences because they have been scientifically studied for 50, 60 years, ever
Long
since
time.
people could be
Yeah.
reliably resuscitated from heart attacks.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, and lots of science has been done on near-death experiences, and they found like six different ways to corroborate that these are genuine out-of-body experiences,
Mental.
not an hallucination of the dying brain or
Yeah.
whatever, but they can confirm these are legit out-of-body experiences. People see stuff that they couldn't have seen, they know stuff they couldn't have known, even stuff that happens in the future, whatever. They have various ways of corroborating that these are legit out-of-body experiences. So once I satisfied myself on the science of near death experiences, I started studying the experiences themselves. And to date, just like with alien abductions, I've absorbed probably thousands of near death experience accounts.
Yeah.
And so, okay, so one of my ghost hunting buddies was a Reiki master. If you know what Reiki is,
Yeah.
energy healing.
Hmm.
Reiki key, the key in Reiki is chi, it's, energy.
Yeah.
So I let her do a Reiki session on me, a Reiki healing session on
Lovely.
me. And I felt the energy,
Mm.
which was a mind-blowing
Wow.
experience for me.
Yeah.
I felt this glow all day. I could feel
Oh,
the
wow.
chi.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I was just
You had the extra, you had the energy about you that day, and you could feel its presence on you.
very strongly, very obviously. And it wasn't because I was expecting it to happen. I was not expecting it to happen. I roll my eyes at Reiki and anything new agey or anything.
And
But
just a
I was
question there,
open.
Jack. Sorry,
What was
just a
that?
question there. When people saw you that day and you felt the energy, did people notice like did they ever did turn around to you and say, Jack, you're glowing that day? Like, did they notice
I
anything about you?
I I have not on that day, but on subsequent days when I have had Reiki treatments, I would go home and my wife would say, "You're glowing." And yes, yes, that has happened on multiple
Yeah.
occasions.
Oh, wicked. Oh,
Um,
that's
uh,
brilliant.
that day it was a more mild glow, but it was very powerful for me. My first experience with the energy. So all of this was going on, researching near-death experiences, researching the
Hmm.
paranormal, UFOs, experiencing the energy, and it was around all this time that I began having my own experiences, my own personal relationship to the phenomenon and what I call the greater phenomenon,
Yeah.
because the UFO phenomenon is just a subset of
Hmm.
a much larger phenomenon that I call the greater phenomenon. Is tied up with metaphysics, dimensions, spirituality,
All
Bigfoot,
of it.
portals,
All of it.
whatever
Yeah.
fairies, whatever, right?
Oh, yeah.
Uh, s- so yeah. So anyway, I started having my own experiences in my own relationship with the phenomenon around that time, and I
Hmm.
also learned Reiki. When we moved to College Station, I found a Reiki master, and it took a year and a half long course. On Reiki, and now I'm a Reiki master. I'm actually one level above a master. I'm a Karuna master.
Wow.
So I love the energy. Right now I'm taking a Qigong class, which is learning about energy in a different way and how it
Sure.
interacts with the body and how your body can interact with the energy.
Wow. Really learning
Really
the
cool stuff.
stages. Yeah. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. And wow, so you've gone from a complete atheist, non-believer of anything to just researcher, now practicer, essentially. You're fully involved. You could almost definitely teach Reiki at this point and do it effectively.
Well,
And
I'm now an experiencer of the UFO phenomenon on multiple occasions. I've had multiple metaphysical and other experiences that we can talk about.
sure,
Uh,
sure.
And some of my first experiences were very spiritual. Some of them were private, and I don't necessarily want to share them.
Hmm.
But being visited by my dad, who has passed, which was very powerful.
Wow.
I had a Kundalini awakening, which is interesting because, as everybody in my Reiki class observed, I'm the least likely in all the Reiki class to have a Kundalini awakening. If do you know what a Kundalini awakening is?
I have read up on it on what exactly what that is, but for the audience, Jack, can you just explain what happened to you? Because a lot of people will not know or understand what you're even going on about, especially in the UK. So yeah, I mean, what happened to you during that experience?
Well, Kundalini awakening is a Hindu concept. It's a modality of enlightenment.
Mhm.
There's many modalities of enlightenment. A lot of people use a Kundalini awakening, that term, as an umbrella term for any enlightenment modality. But it's actually a very specific event. And what I experienced was a textbook Hindu Kundalini awakening. That's not to say that other modalities aren't legit. They totally are. And what's really striking about it is how much they have in common, even though they're so different.
Mm.
Like I was going to an acupuncturist, and he had his own enlightenment experience, which was very similar to a Kundalini awakening. He felt this heat in his belly, as he was
Oh,
meditating, and ascended up his
oh.
body, and he had this great, amazing enlightenment experience as it
Mhm.
he went out of his crown chakra. But that's very different from a Kundalini awakening, which is in your spine, which is very specific to a
Yeah.
Kundalini awakening. But it's very similar. This energy going up, and then your enlightenment
And
event.
this is an Indian practice.
Yeah, and the Hindus know some stuff.
Of
They've like
course.
they've
Yeah.
mapped these
Yeah. So,
metaphysics
yeah.
out. It's it's
Yeah.
it's eerie. It's eerie. It makes you wonder how much of the Hindu religion is on point.
Yeah.
But the Hindu religion, because after my Kundalini experience, I've dived into it. It's weird. It's vast. It's complex. It's contradictory. There's different eras of it,
Crazy.
just as there is with Buddhism, and some
Mhm.
eras contradict other eras. Um, so anyway, that's okay. So I don't quite know where to start with the Hindu religion, even though I know there's there, which is very frustrating. If you guys do, tell me where I should start. Okay, but my Kundalini awakening was cool. I mean, it wasn't cool. It was freaking amazing, man. It was the most amazing experience I think a person could have,
Wow.
because it was a okay. I mean, there's no way to sugarcoat this.
Go for
When
it.
my Reiki instructor was telling us about her own Kundalini awakenings, and she's had six of them. We asked her in class, okay, well, what was that like? She said it was a cosmic orgasm. And, yeah, right?
Yeah.
So I I thought she was being metaphorical.
Uh-huh.
I thought it was just such a pleasant experience. Your mind is open so much to all the good stuff. It's orgasmic, right? In the metaphorical sense
Yeah.
of the word.
And then
No, no, there's nothing metaphorical about it.
and that night,
So
guys, Jack had a baby.
love it. So yeah, so the experience was all right, and it was, by the way, I did not achieve this myself. I take
Sure.
no credit for the Kundalini awakening. This was a gift from somebody, spirit guides, higher self. I have no clue who gifted me this experience, but so I'm playing video games, or a video game, and this is important to the story.
Mm.
So I'm playing a game which is Doom, the recent, I think 2019 or something like that remake of Doom.
Mhm.
Where at a certain point in the game you go to hell and you're fighting demons in hell.
Sure.
Well, okay, so I'm fighting demons in hell. I've killed everybody in hell, and I got lost somehow in hell, and I have unknowingly gone back to the beginning of the hell
Oh,
levels.
right.
Okay. I have made a wrong turn somewhere and I've gone back to the beginning of the hell levels. And I'm wandering around this desolate hellscape for hours trying to figure out how the hell to get out of hell. And where's all the bad guys? In a video game, you go where the bad guys are, you fight them, and that's how you know you're progressing. Couldn't find any bad guys. I was lost in hell.
You know you're in the wrong place, Jack, when there's no bad guys.
There's no bad guys. Well, what am I
Hmm.
doing? What am I doing? So I eventually get creeped out and frustrated by being lost in hell. I put the video game down. I go to the study, sit down in the study. Boom! As soon as my tailbone touches the seat, I feel the pulses up my spine. And I'm like, well, something's pulsing in my spine. And I kind of start shaking. And I've done research on Kundalini awakenings. I knew that pulses up the spine were a symptom of Kundalini awakenings. I wasn't like super knowledgeable about Kundalini awakenings, but I knew what they were theoretically.
Sure.
Am I having a Kundalini awakening? What's going on? Then I started seizing. I started shaking
Wow.
like that. And so I'm seizing and pulse is going up my spine, and then all of a sudden it just hits me, boom. The Kundalini just, I am just gone. I am not,
Wow.
yeah, I'm just gone. It was a 5 hour orgasm. It was insane, and it was like, I mean, no physical effects. But like an orgasm times a million, like not a
Wow.
humanly possible orgasm. It was nuts. It was an amazing experience, but it wasn't just that. I don't want to diminish it or reduce it to that. I was like in this place, I call it the light. I mean, there were no visuals. I didn't see anything. I never had a moment of where I felt like I knew everything in the world and had this enlightenment moment, even though it's supposedly theoretically an enlightenment modality. I never had that experience. But I was in this space for like 5 hours totally thoughtless. I was, okay, so the chair that I was in was squeaking and creaking. It needed some WD-40. I was very worried that my wife was going to hear that and walk in on me when this first started.
Sure.
Because I realized this must be a Kundalini awakening. And before it really hit me. And then it hit me, and I was dimly for a little bit worried about that creaking of the chair. Um, I have two chairs sitting next to me for the cats. I still have one right here. I don't know if you can see that. And I have a cat sitting in it. Thank you, Baxter. And so all I would have had to do was get out of my chair and get in the next chair to prevent the creaking of the chair, right? If I was worried about my wife walking into me. I,
Quick fix.
I could not conceptualize that thought at the time. That was something that was an afterthought. After the experience, I was like, why didn't I just get in the other chair? I couldn't have physically gotten up from the chair and sat down in the other chair. I couldn't have conceptualized the thought of, hey, it's creaking. Why don't I get up and get in the other chair? It wouldn't have occurred to me. I was in this zone of no thought, this light overtaking me, what I call the light, even though there were no visuals, but just in this crazy zone of the yeah, it was just this amazing experience, and it just went on for hours and hours and hours. Now 5 hours is nothing. My Reiki instructor had one that lasted 12 hours. Now I don't even
Half a
know
day.
how could you get anything done? I mean,
Oh,
uh,
that would be your concern, wouldn't it, Jack? You'd be like, I've got 3 videos to make, so how am I going to get anything
right?
done? Oh
Yeah, so
man.
man, it was nuts. It was crazy. Afterwards, I was just researching Kundalini awakenings, trying to figure out what I had experienced, trying to figure out who gifted me this experience because
Sure.
it was clearly arranged for me. I was lost in hell, and within 1 minute of quitting that game and going to the study, I was having a spiritual awakening. Even though I'd never had that moment, it was obviously a Kundalini awakening and modality of enlightenment. Even though I know I don't consider myself enlightened, I never had that one moment of knowing everything.
Yeah.
But it was a spiritual awakening nonetheless. And so within a minute of being lost in hell, I was being spiritually enlightened or awakened.
Yeah.
So I mean that was arranged for me by somebody.
Yeah. I mean,
There's no way that was a coincidence, right? In my mind. Now, maybe you
yeah.
disagree, but in my mind, there's no way that could be a coincidence.
Yeah.
So that was one of my experiences. Another experience was, do you know what ayahuasca is?
Yeah, I mean, well, I've heard you talk about it so often on the channel, so I'm quite well versed. But again, for my audience who don't watch you, tell us about one of your. I know you've been on a few ayahuasca trips, but tell us about one of them. Maybe your most recent one, right? Because you've just gone on one, right?
Yeah, well, okay. So, yeah, I've had some really amazing experiences at multiple ayahuasca retreats. But the first retreat that I went to, was very powerful. So, ayahuasca, if you don't know, is a plant medicine developed in South America, in
Mhm.
Peru, in the Amazon, the Shipibo tribe. Multiple tribes do practice it, however, and some of them have different ways of practicing it. Anyway, it's a very powerful plant medicine, obviously psychedelic, extreme, the highest order of psychedelic. There are different sorts of DMT that
Yeah.
are even higher than ayahuasca, or, there's no higher form of psychedelic than DMT, but there are higher forms of DMT, like Bufo and stuff like that.
Sure.
Mike Tyson's a big fan of licking the toad,
Love
the
Mike
Bufo.
Tyson.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He's got a whole bunch of toads. But so ayahuasca, very powerful plant medicine, usually administered by a shaman and a ceremony setting.
Mhm.
And so I've gone to 20 ceremonies and had some amazing experiences. I went there because I wanted to have an out of body experience. I wanted to get in touch with somebody that could let me know what the hell was going on.
Yeah, for sure.
Because all this time I'd been having experiences, various experiences, physical, metaphysical, nothing particularly alien until, okay. All right. Well, let's just, okay. I'll just go through it as quickly as I can. All right. So, first ayahuasca retreat I go to have an out of body experience. I'm looking for my spirit guide to whoever to tell me what the hell is going on. And, and get some answers for the bigger picture stuff. Instead, what I get is a physical healing. I had some major gut issues all my life. Uh, and I've been to doctors. I've had all sorts of, stuff and whatever. And nobody's been able to help. Ayahuasca healed me. I could feel it happening at the time, but I didn't know what it was until I
Amazing.
got home and
Yeah.
I had been healed of these gut issues. It was a transformative experience, changed my life. Big deal. And again, there's no like way you can explain that rationally. It wasn't the dieta. It wasn't,
Mhm.
I could feel it when it happened.
That's
That
amazing.
it was
Yeah.
the very first night of my very first ayahuasca experience, this physical healing. So, on another retreat later on, I had been researching because a lot of my near-death experience research had, people would meet Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Now, I'm an atheist, and this gets into the UFO stuff. This is my first UFO experience. So I'm an atheist, or I was an atheist. At this point, I guess you call me a spiritualist,
Hmm.
which I still, yeah, and an experiencer of the spiritual. And so I'm wanting to understand what these people are encountering on the other side when they're meeting Jesus. I was raised, in America, and it's a very Christian country, largely. And I was not a believer, never been a believer, but
Yeah.
it's the culture, and very interested. Was Jesus a real guy? Is there any truth to any of that? It was interesting to me, but I didn't want to read like the Bible or something to get answers. I
Yeah.
wanted some sort of outside perspective on all of this. What I found was the Dolores Cannon books on Jesus. Do you know who Dolores Cannon is?
No, I've heard of this name, Dolores Cannon. Is
Yeah,
it to do with the Vatican or not?
no, not. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if she ever did any research on the Vatican, but what she did was hypnotic regression, and she regressed people to remember alien abductions. She did a
Oh.
lot of those, and she wrote books about the information that she got from them. And she also regressed people to remember past lives. And over the course of her many decades long career, she encountered three people that had met Jesus in a past life. and she wrote two books about that. So I'm researching these books by Dolores Cannon. The first book is told from the point of view of a guy that knew Jesus um, as his instructor in the Torah. And this guy is named Sudi. Even though the person relating this experience 2,000 years later is a female, I think she was raised in Arkansas, not aware of, all this historical stuff that Sudi is aware of. The Essenes, a little known group, uh, really interesting group as depicted in those books, tied up with Atlantis and mystical stuff, and so on. So Jesus comes amongst them and learns all this trippy stuff, and he's not depicted as the Messiah or the Son of God, but he's the great teacher. He's the prophesied great teacher of Atlantis. And UFOs are mixed up with it, and energy, and mystery schools, and crystals. It's a very new agey depiction of Jesus. It really is. And so I'm like vibing on this, right? I like this is cool, right? It felt very authentic. It was a very it didn't feel a BSy because I've read multiple of those sorts of books since then that felt pretty BSy. This one did not feel like it. It felt very true. So anyway, go to this ayahuasca retreat. And on the third night of that retreat, I'm meditating on this vision of Jesus. And I had this powerful experience where I felt like I connected to Jesus. And it was more of a resonance. I mean, it's not like I was having a conversation with him, although it felt so real. I expected him to just kind of like pop out at me, like
Wow.
wave, give me a wave. Hey,
Yeah,
Jack,
yeah.
you're on the right track. You're, something like that. Didn't get that. I never get any visuals with ayahuasca. Some people get amazing visuals and they go to other dimensions and who knows what. Anyway, I'm not getting that, but so I don't get that, but I got this powerful resonance where I'm feeling this connection with Jesus. So I, ask, whoever's there, is this real? Can you give me a sign? Otherwise, I'm just going to assume I'm tripping my balls off because I'm tripping my balls off. Okay, so a month later, as I'm driving down the road at night, perfectly sober, a UFO makes the sign of the cross in the sky.
No.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, just as
yeah.
you're driving and you just look up and it's just there.
Yeah, I'm driving down the road on the way home from the Renaissance Festival, and I see this flash go like that. It goes into being like that, vanishes, right? And I'm like, oh, wow, sweetie, did you see that? Because my wife is right there. Oh, no, I didn't see that. And it was up there. Oh, look. And then, okay, at first I say, well, we should do some CE5, to project our love and thoughts. Because I wasn't sure if it was like a shooting star or something
Uh-huh.
like that, right? And but maybe we can summon it again. But like as soon as the words were out of my mouth, another UFO in that same part of the sky, like 10 seconds after the first one, bright white light goes like that. So the first one goes like that, second one goes like that. And the horizontal bar was shorter than the vertical bar, making a perfect
Making
Christian
an
cross.
actual crucifix rather than just a like a cross. It was an actual slightly higher
Right. It was
in the
like a
center.
priest doing the thing,
Sure.
right? And
What?
so okay, that's not a shooting star. And it was just perfect. Just coming into existence, going like that,
Hmm.
describing a perfect cross, and then you're just going out of existence, just describing these perfect shapes, this luminous white ball. And so I thought that was incredible. I'm just reeling from this. I go home into the backyard, go out in the backyard, and I say, "Did I really just see that? Can I get confirmation that I really saw that?" And a bright white light comes on in the sky very slowly, and then irises off and goes out.
Brights up and then dims down.
Yeah,
Like like someone's just got a torch and shone it up bright and then took it back down.
yeah. And so that
Funny
was
you
my
say that.
confirmation of the confirmation. Now I was greedy. I said, "Okay, wow, that was great. Can I get another one?" And they said, "Screw you, Jack. That's all we're giving you." Here.
Ah, the mothership didn't land.
So I've had multiple UFO events since then, and many metaphysical and whatever you want to call it events. And But that was my first UFO sighting.
Wow. Wow. And was that so that was when you'd done your research. That was after you'd done your research, and obviously you went on to then trips and other things, because you wouldn't go on an ayahuasca trip unless you really were fully invested, right? Unless you were fully committed. So I assume that what else has happened to you, Jack?
Well, I've had another UFO event associated with an ayahuasca retreat. Actually, at the ayahuasca retreat, it was about 6 months ago. There is video of it. Yeah, it was the final night of the ayahuasca retreat. Actually, in this particular retreat, we did a noon ceremony
Uh-huh.
for our final ceremony. Usually, we do the ceremonies at night, but this particular retreat, they want people to be able to go home and be in, if they want to on Sunday. So they do a noon ceremony on the final day, and which is cool. In fact, some traditions when they have a ceremony, they actually do it around a fire. And there's daytime ceremonies. There's all sorts of ceremonies and different ways of doing it.
Mhm.
I'm used to doing it at night, so this was kind of different. But we did a noon ceremony. It was very nice, very pleasant experience. I don't go into the medicine as deeply since I'm going to drive home afterward. But I think I do one cup, and so we're all saying goodbye after the ceremony and giving each other hugs and everything because you feel like you've really like made friends for life when you go to a ceremony.
Sure. It's an
There, there,
experience
there,
that you're sharing, right?
really, I mean, it's an amazing experience going to a ceremony, going to a retreat, and you meet these guys, and by the third day, y'all are like best friends and friends for life. Even if you never see him again, you have this connection.
Mhm.
It's really cool. So, this one guy who I'd become a good friend with, I'm saying goodbye to this one group of people. He says, "Jack, get over here. There's UFOs." Uh, yeah, and I'm like, what? There's UFOs? I don't see UFOs. So I go over there and he says, yeah, look, there's lights in the sky. You see those in the clouds? And I'm like, yeah, I see they're like bright kind of orange orbs hanging out in the clouds. But it's sundown and I'm thinking, maybe they're stars, right? I don't see any other stars. It's interesting that they're only in this cloud, like three or four of them. And he says, no, 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 look, Jack, I took a video. You can see him moving. So I looked at his video that he took on his phone,
Hmm.
and I posted that on my site, and you can see clearly one of these objects moving.
Wow.
So I said, okay, well, they're not stars. All right, man. We'll see if we can interact with them. So I go, talk to the UFOs, and I say, hey guys, you want to play? You want to interact? Why don't you like pull sprightly? Right then, one of the orbs went out. And me and the other guy, we were just laughing our butts off. Because
Mad.
they're going to interact, but they're not our monkey. They're not going to do what we're asking them to do. They're going to do their own thing.
Mhm.
So this orb, okay, so there's like three of them in a row, right? One there, one there. And so this one goes off. And another one a moment later appears on the other side of the other one. So I assume it's the one that vanished, just repositioning itself, turning on again. But yeah, so they were interacting with us, but they weren't doing what we asked.
Mhm.
But it was pretty cool. But
I mean,
that's my
it's happened to me in the past where I've sat there and thought, what's the chances? Like I've been at my window, I've been filming UAP, and I've sat there on my live streams. Like anyone can watch it, and I'm sat there, and it's like 2 hours in, and I'm like, I want a saucer now. I've had all the dragon UAP I can take. I want a Ferrari now, and like half an hour later, boom, saucer, and then it showed again and again. Was that just by chance, or did asking really help? I'm asking myself these questions as it's happening, and I don't know. I just don't know. So for anyone that's listening to Jack and going, that's just crazy, man. Surely not. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you, except when you ask for stuff, sometimes stuff happens.
It does, man. One time, my wife and I were taking a walk in the forest, at a nature trail, and we had been reading, or I had been reading that you could ask, nature or the phenomenon for a sign, and it would give it to you. You had to sometimes wait 24 hours. but very often it would give it to you. So we're
Hmm.
talking about this, and we say to the forest, okay, well, if you're there and you want to, show us you're there, can you have three red birds fly across our field of view? Nothing happens. A day later, when we're back home, we're taking in a different nature trail. Within 24 hours, three red birds fly right across our trail. Now,
That's
I mean, maybe that's just three random birds,
three random red ones.
three random red birds,
That's just
all together.
weird. That's just so strange. And this is what I mean. Like, how many times has it got to happen before it's a real thing, Jack? That's the-
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I mean, the phenomenon is out there. Now, I'm not like a deep level experiencer. There's been people that have been to other planets and other dimensions and had all sorts of crazy
Mm,
experiences. Mine aren't that crazy or whatever, but I have had an interesting range of experiences, UFO experiences, energy experiences, Hindu modalities of enlightenment, ayahuasca giving me a perspective on South American modalities of contact and experience. I've
yeah.
had an interesting range of perspective that, I think that allows me to understand the phenomenon is not a simple or monolithic thing.
Mm,
It's many things all wrapped
mm.
up together. And I wish I understood it. And if you do, let me know. Uh,
Well, it's funny you say that, Jack. An interview is going out in 10 minutes, and that'll just give some people an indication of what time it is here and when we're doing this. But I interviewed a chap called Edward Abbott like yesterday, and you might want to watch that. He's covered some answers for me, and it all sounds very logical, and it all ties in with what I've been showing and what Dr. Scheib's been showing, and even what you're saying. He's got his opinion on the ghosting as well, which you might want to listen to. But he used to work at S3 in a skiff, so he's got some idea. He's obviously overheard some conversations, and yeah, it's an interesting one. I honestly like it's the first person I've ever spoke to that actually I resonate with on this topic on all fronts, and we delved into a lot. So
that sounds awesome, man. I need to
yeah.
check that out.
So what's your tell the audience and tell me, Jack, what is your obviously your plan is disclosure. You're an advocate for disclosure, right? You want everyone to know that these things are real, that there's something else out there. What have you got any plans moving forward? Have you got any directions you want to go in?
So disclosure is great. Obviously, we need disclosure, and we don't just need a little disclosure. We need everything.
Hmm.
We need we need oversight of these black programs that are doing God knows what. We know some of the stuff they've been doing, and it's not great. Killing people, assisting in
Hmm.
abductions, shooting at some UFOs, working with beings
Yeah,
from other UFOs. Whatever the hell they're doing, we need to know. That
yeah,
seems pretty important. So, we need disclosure of that. We need full oversight of whatever those programs are, not just in the US, but around the world. I mean, this is a
around the world.
multinational thing.
Yeah.
And, we also need disclosure of the implications of all of this and what it's connected to, because it is connected to the spiritual and the metaphysical consciousness, however you want to think about it, other dimensions. It's all connected. It all is part of a whole. So disclosure of the UFO topic leads to disclosure of that other stuff. And we need the full ball of wax. We need to know what reality we are living in. Reality right now is classified, and that's wrong. Okay, but there's another thing, and it's because disclosure for me is just the beginning. Obviously, we need it badly. It's going to take moving mountains to get there, but and that's super important, and definitely a focus should be on that. But another focus, I think, a critical focus, also needs to be on establishing a positive relationship with the phenomenon.
Hmm.
And we don't have to wait for the powers that be to provide disclosure, to have our own connection to and relationship to
Yeah.
the phenomenon. You can pray, you can meditate, practice peace and love, mindfulness, various modalities that are out there, whether that's Hindu modalities or Christian modalities, whether that's Reiki, Qigong,
Mm.
whatever connects you to spirit and source and all that kind of good stuff. I think it goes a long way to paving the way for what we will need, as UFO Jesus says, in a post-disclosure world. So yeah, that's where my mindset is, not just in disclosure, but what comes after that, and then
Sure.
having a peaceful, positive relationship with the phenomenon that advances us and hopefully, the overall picture.
Sure. You've definitely thought about past disclosure, which I guess for people like me and you, it's probably inevitable. People are going to know these things are real eventually, right? It's going to happen at some stage. But you're right. The big thing would be to not only accept them, but everything needs to be out on the table because I think for us to move on with this and maybe even coexist, which would be nice to have a good relationship with these things, it would be good to be prepared, for anything that might shock us. Uh, and after God knows how many years of secrecy, I'm sure there's going to be things that's going to shock the nation and the world when this all comes out. But like I say, it's a massive rabbit hole that maybe is going to unfold, and there's going to be a lot of people that have got questions that they want answers to. So, um, yeah, Jack, we'll wrap it up there, mate. I think it's been amazing. I think you're amazing. I think your work ethic, your work rate, the research, it all matters. It matters to the world. It matters to everyone who hasn't got that person, you know, in their country to do this for them. You literally inform so many people. And without you, mate, where would transparency be? Questioning everything and everyone. You're dead honest, mate, and I love it.
Thank you, Rob. I really appreciate that. And, I want to say again that I really respect what you do. Getting out in the field and getting actual research. People like me would be nowhere without boots on the ground. People like yourself going out there and figuring out what the heck is going on and getting evidence of it, no matter how weird it is.
Yeah, it's getting strange. Yeah, Jack, appreciate you coming on the show, mate. You take care. Don't work too hard, man. I know you're pushing two,
You
three
too,
videos a
man.
day.
And good luck
I
with
know,
that.
I know what that's like, mate. So, hats off to you. Thank you, and all the best, mate. You take care.
Thank you.